Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some very interesting news because it does seem like there's actually now a secret upgrade coming out over here when it comes to the Microsoft consoles and as well Xbox Series X and S's and all that good stuff. And this is something that actually has been a big drama these past few weeks, especially on the fact that people keep on thinking that some of these consoles, namely the Switch, namely the Xbox Series S, actually might get really outdated kind of relatively quick, especially as as time goes on, you get a lot more diminishing returns when it comes to what you're getting for your console from your GPU, when it comes to the internals, memories, as games get more demanding, all of that type of stuff. And as well, it is somewhat of a big valid critique. But with this, we actually have a pretty new addressment when it comes to this, where we actually are going to be seeing brand new big internal hardware upgrades and all that good stuff, which might be kind of nice to go and see at the end of the day. So a lot of things to go talk about, a lot of things to go bring it up. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. We have the Amazon links down below. As well, we have the Twitter, we have the Twitch stream target links for the PS5s and all that good stuff. And let's dive into the video itself. So hope you guys are all having a fantastic weekend. So now we've actually been seeing a lot more news when it comes down to the Xbox Series S and the fact that we're now getting even more improved graphics performances and how this actually might be kind of a bigger, more worthwhileness when it comes to this brand new console. So Microsoft gives the Xbox Series S devs, thank God, more memory now to finally improve the graphics performance for the console itself. This could address game developer complaints about memory constraints. So basically when it comes to this stuff, we've been having a few very minor hiccups when it comes to the Xbox Series S. Now we've talked about these consoles before and I never really asked the community. If you guys actually have one, leave a comment down below. I actually don't know how many folks actually in the community do have an Xbox Series S. But when it comes to this is that we do know there is a big limitation, and as time goes on, it'll be worse and worse and worse. I think even if you just want to use, like, say, the iPhones, for example, we're getting close to the third new iPhone since then. As well, we've also, you get different types of upgrades. As it goes on, it's not as good. And especially for a $300 baseline console, typically at that end, it's not usually the highest end console in known demand, especially compared to the Xbox Series X. So Microsoft is giving the Xbox Series S game developers now more control over memory on the console. A new Xbox software development kit now has been released to developers recently, and it frees up even more memory for developers to access for the Xbox Series S games and boost performance now in certain titles. So that's kind of number one. A big thing is obviously more memory means more things can be encoded on the screen, and as well also means, as you guys can read, a better performance in certain titles. And this is a big thing because that is, as I keep on mentioning, the big bottleneck for the Xbox Series S. The fact that it does not have as much freedom in terms of GPU, internal CPUs, everything out there, RAM, is like a big hindrance for it. So if they can optimize the internals and make them even better, this is a big sign, because this would make the console last longer, have more of an incentive maybe for like these other different types of countries such as India, China, all these more of somewhat more impoverished countries that may not be able to go and blow out $500 as actively, but maybe the $300 for a high-end purchase could maybe make sense. And it's kind of just nice to go and see that also for the development side, which also may go and optimize the Xbox Series X as well. Seems pretty cool. So hundreds of additional megabytes of memory are now available to the Xbox Series S developers, says Microsoft's game dev team in a video detailing the updates. This gives developers more time over control over memory, which can improve graphics performance in memory-constrained conditions. So basically, they're just seeing huge graphics improvements. I would say this is big. That's kind of a big update. Anytime you can fine-tune the internal systems and make it just a better performing console, and it affects everyone too. And these are for the developers, and they have more control over what they can change, what options, what features, what settings, what grass, what shadows, what lighting, all that stuff internally, or as well as how much it's even being utilized by the console. That just makes the entire system's performance better. This also would probably relate a lot to the Xbox Series X, because if you can go and have one of those super smart godsend developers And this does happen a lot in open source projects. If they're actually able to go and develop this stuff, and they're actually able to go and fine-tune it, it can sometimes also be correlated towards the Xbox Series X or even other different types of development tools, depending on how much is available, how much is accessible, and stuff like that. The $299 Xbox Series S launched as a console capable of 1440p gaming at up to 120 FPS, but many games have only hit 1080p, which is obviously a big issue because if you're spending money, even if it's on the cheaper end hardware, you still want to make sure it's worth your while. You still want to make sure you're getting money off of it and you can get the best performance you possibly can. And obviously that's a big deal. Like if I'm spending money, I want to make sure it's good. So basically a lot of these games have been somewhat soft locked to the 1080p range and without the higher frame rates of the more powerful Xbox Series X. So it's the double whammy of the Xbox Series X has a lot more GPU power, has a lot more internals, and as well, it could run better, can run more efficient, can run 4K or 1440p. And it's kind of like, once again, they're trying to affect the longevity of the Xbox Series S, where the console itself is good. The console itself is very, very nice. But the biggest struggle for it is that, well, at the end of the day, if you can't go and fully optimize it, it's just people aren't going to like it as much. And that's why I think they're kind of trying their best to make as much available as they can, because it has been out for quite some time, as much as weirdly as it has to say that, because I'm still getting used to this console generation. And the more NUS features, more internals, more control equals the better product that developers can make and utilize. So Microsoft's larger and more powerful Xbox Series X console ships with a far more powerful GPU, but also has 16 gigabytes of RAM, while the smaller Xbox Series S only has 10 gigabytes of RAM. Developers have to work around with around 8 gigabytes of memory on the Xbox Series S, as Microsoft reserves around 2 gigabytes for OS tasks. So that's let's say you're on your computer, you'll launch Windows operating system. Let's say you're on the PS5. Let's say you're on the Xbox Series S. As you launch it, you see the main home page, the settings, the downloads, network, all that, the general subsystem, system memory, system restore, seeing the actual scroll through page, friends list. It's just in case you guys don't know, that's just what it is. Those memory constraints have been detailed by the Digital Foundry, with developers reportedly feeling some pain around optimizing games specifically for the Xbox Series S. It's less of the CPU and GPU power of the Xbox Series S, particularly as the Xbox Series S has had the same CPU as the X, but more on the memory situation, which as of right now they are addressing and trying to go and fix. Microsoft's improvements, albeit small, could help reduce some of that friction around developing games for the Xbox Series S. So this is to me, although they're saying it's kind of small in terms of the overall percentages of it, it's a big enough thing because if you have to waste developers' time to try to go and optimize something for a separate console, it does go and soft lock the development time for the better consoles or, say, PC. That's kind of why I've been a pretty big adamant person against people still using the PS4 and Xbox One, because as I know, there's a lot of folks, and it's still hard to get consoles. I always will give that a free pass, because if you just either can't afford it, or can't find it in stock, or you work normal hours, you should not have to deal with negative repercussions for it. But it does kind of definitely tone down development cost, makes development cost more, and if you could somehow fine-tune it and make the baseline even higher, and make the Xbox Series S more just easy to use for developers, it's just a nice feature. And as well, I don't think most folks would disagree if you can somehow optimize and get a few more gigabytes of RAM. That's just essentially just a huge free upgrade coming out them from optimizing everything else. It's also in the same boat too, where the Xbox Series X also had a brand new system starting change, which optimized the starting screen, which also would save folks a lot of different time and be able to go utilize their SSDs a little bit more. So Microsoft has also addressed an issue where graphics virtual addresses were being allocated considerably slower than non-graphics virtual addresses, which means Xbox games can now take better advantage of other recent memory enhancements that Microsoft has added to its Xbox developer tools. Fingers crossed, this all means we'll see some improvements to performance as well in some games running the Xbox Series S soon. And as well, this would also relate a lot to the Xbox Series X, because if it's more efficient, better developer time, just better overall systems, and also if you can kind of somehow fine-tune it even more, it would probably make the Xbox Series X even better. So some of these upgrades to me are very cool in terms of performance and in terms of just making the consoles better, and I want to hear your thoughts down below. As well as make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Howl links down below for the Target at PS5s and also for the normal signups for Samsung. Twitter and Twitch, we would love if you guys followed, and leave a like if you guys want to down below.